Hey, Nafa, it was really exciting to hear about the development from Annapurna Labs, the hardware and what has happened, and also the incorporation of the agile learning process,
Yeah,
software
absolutely.
processes,
Yeah,
right?
I just loved how they took a kind of almost a software-based approach to developing hardware and just developing it so quickly.
Yeah, and the other thing, kind of, he started off and ended his talk by talking about how exciting his job is working in
You can totally see
Annapurna
the
Labs.
passion in
Yeah,
it. Yeah, I
and
love that.
exactly. And I think it's kind of an exciting place to be to work on. And I think that he also talked about the speed with which we're developing chips at AWS, something that also Anthony and Jeff talked about this
Yeah,
morning.
it's just amazing what we've done over the past 10 years. You saw from Anthony and Jeff this morning about the evolution of the Nitro card in over 10 years, how many iterations there. Another example with the Graviton processors, 3 generations in such a short period of time. Our first Graviton processor was launched reInvent in 2018, and we're already on our 3rd generation now.
Absolutely.
So much innovation at such a fast pace.
Yeah, so with us now is Amit here, and I think we're going to change topics a little bit as well and talk a little bit more about how we translate some of the chip development that we've been talking about into some of our larger goals about sustainability. And I think one of the themes that has come through this morning, and as we talk a little bit more throughout the day, is developing things efficiently.
Yes.
And I think efficiency, one of the byproducts of that efficiency is our ability to work on sustainability and to achieve some of our sustainable goals.
Absolutely. Both James and Nafa touched upon it a little bit, but the Graviton processors, 60% more efficiency for the same amount of performance. Just amazing.
Yeah. So Amit, thanks for coming out today. And maybe you can introduce yourself here.
Yeah, thank you, Art. Thanks for having me. Hey, everyone, I'm Amit Bajaj, and I'm actually a sustainability business advisor with AWS Global Sustainability Team. And prior to this role, I have been part of the migrations team in AWS. I was a solution architect, serving many different customers and partners under the Migration Acceleration Program. And yeah, prior to that, I have done some professional services roles in different organizations. And I am based out of Vancouver and trying to live a sustainable life with my 2 kids.
As much as we can.
As much as I can.
Yeah. Well, so and thanks for coming down with us from Vancouver today. Sorry, we're in Seattle. For those who don't know. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about sustainability, and maybe we should start with some of the goals that AWS has, and we've made public about those goals, and let's talk a little bit about how those goals factor into our development of silicon as well. So maybe I'll let you get started with some of that.
For sure. As you rightly mentioned, that we are thinking about sustainability and efficiency in everything what we do. And there are multiple areas of sustainability, and just for this talk and for the context of today's day, Silicon Day, we will focus on decarbonization and water efficiency. And as scientists have been telling us that we have a very limited time window to make an unprecedented headway to keep the global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius, and then if we cross that threshold, there are going to be some situations of global climate crisis. But to prevent it, we really have to keep the emissions, cut the emissions by half by 2030, and we have to get to the net zero by 2050.
Yeah,
it's
so important. We just dive a little bit deeper. Can you talk a little bit about what Amazon is doing in the sustainability space?
Oh yeah. So keeping what scientists have been telling us, keeping that thing in mind, Amazon actually co-founded the Climate Pledge in 2019, along with the Global Optimism. And in that, there are multiple initiatives under the Climate Pledge program, and the primary goal of the Climate Pledge is to get to the net zero carbon by 2040, which is 10 years ahead of the Paris Agreement. And the second goal is we should get to the 100% renewable energy by 2025. What does that really mean is we will power all of our operations, including AWS data centers, including our retail stores, fulfillment centers, with renewable energy by 2025. And the third is really to dedicate the $2 billion of a Climate Pledge fund to those innovators and to those companies who are really trying to solve the hard problem of climate change and trying to innovate on behalf of to make this world a better place. So Rivian and Carbon Cure are some of those companies who have been beneficiary of this fund. So that's what where we are, and these are the goals which are driving us to gain efficiencies on a daily basis.
So aside from, as we talk through the climate pledge, this is a very aggressive goal. To do this 10 years in advance of the Paris Climate Accords, and a needed goal, I might add as well. But aside from Amazon, who is one of the founders of the climate pledge, how many other signatories are there so far, roughly speaking? And can you name a handful of those other companies that are also participating in that climate pledge?
Yeah, good question, Art. So the thing is, Amazon is having a business not in a vacuum. We need other, businesses to work together with us. We have to act together, collaborate, innovate to make this world a better place. So we have around 300 plus signatories as of today.
Wow.
And who are part of the climate pledge, and some of the names are the big names in the industry, such as IBM or SAP, P&G, Heineken. So are some of those names, and they all come from many different countries, like 29 different countries and 51 different industries, and they represent the big different industries into this climate pledge group, and we are acting together and we are collaborating on our innovations every day.
That just shows how, climate change really impacts everyone. It's great to see so much participation across just such a diverse set of companies in different countries. So we said that we're going to achieve this a climate pledge by 2040. What are some of the goals that we need to do to achieve by 2040?
So yeah, Martin. So we have already started laying the groundwork. As soon as we started with the climate pledge in 2019, and we are moving very fast. And you might have seen that one of the biggest needle movers are the renewable energy, and Amazon is the largest corporate buyer of the renewable energy in the world. And under that umbrella of gaining a renewable energy capacity into our operations, we have around 310 plus projects, and out of which 134 projects are wind and solar utility projects, and 176 rooftop projects across our retail stores and fulfillment centers. And all of these projects are actually producing 15.7 gigawatts of renewable energy as of April 2022.
So can we maybe these numbers, 15.7 gigawatts? Is there another way we can make that kind of consumable by the average person? Like, how much power is that we're actually talking about that's being used here? Do you have a way to quantify that?
Yeah. So every megawatt hour we produce, we are displacing a fossil fuel generation, and if we count that, we are actually reducing 17.3 million metric ton of carbon emissions per year with that capacity, and that really is equivalent to a carbon sequestered by a forest of a size of country like Iceland.
Wow.
So that's the scale it is we are talking about.
Yeah, I think that gives an idea of the scale back to something we heard earlier from Jeff and Anthony about the size and breadth of the data center presence that we have, that we also, the amount of power that's both required and what we're able to do to offset it. One other thing I wanted to kind of touch on here that you said is that, we talked about we're currently the largest buyer of renewable energy, but I think, we're also, these other projects are on the grid for also improving that to go forward, to even improve our current position, right?
Oh yeah,
we are.
These are the projects which are definitely helping the whole Amazon company. But at the AWS scale also, we are apart from the renewable energy, we are moving towards gaining the efficiency and relentlessly trying to improve our data centers, all the way from the design of a data center or the construction of a data center down to the hardware level, like silicon, as we have been talking about it the whole day today.
Yeah, the importance of efficiency at every element, right?
Yep,
you need to kind of like look at every single component of that, of your entire system, and try to take steps to reduce that presence or the usage of power where possible. And I think that Martin, I think we've heard a lot about efficiency today,
Yeah.
just in general, and how efficiency can help customers as well. And I think that's one of the things we'll get to a little bit here too.
Yeah.
So you touched a lot upon the renewable energy and some of the other processes that Amazon is taking part of in terms of just creating a smaller carbon footprint. Is this globally consistent across the world, or is certain geographies doing things differently to make an impact in their country?
Yeah, so it really depends on the geography wise. We of course we take the geography and we take the demography and the climate situations in mind when we are launching these programs. So some of the examples I can share with you, which are apart from the renewable energy, we are looking at the broad category of the data center construction itself.
Yeah.
So when we talk about data center constructions, there is a indirect emissions which is called embodied carbon,
Yeah.
which is related to it, right? So when it comes to embodied carbon, the concrete is the main material being used for the data center constructions, and we are using the 20% reduced embodied carbon based concrete. So we are working with many different concrete producers. So it's not just our efficiency, we are helping other companies also. So our impact is not just for our customers, right. It's also for our suppliers too. So we are gaining that efficiency even in our constructions. So another major part of construction is steel, where we are, where we have mandated to use the electric arc furnace source steel, because that is the steel which reduced our embodied carbon footprint by 5 times.
Wow.
So that's pretty much, and we are, we already did 6 of those projects last year, where we used the electric arc furnace source steel for our data centers, and that is actually reducing our carbon footprint and reducing the footprint for our customers too.
And Amit, can I assume that it's not just technology that we're using to build our own data center, but it's also stuff that we're sharing with the our learnings on how we do this building and construction, particularly the steel and concrete that you mentioned. We're also sharing that so other people can adopt it as well, correct?
Oh yeah, that is, so whatever work we are doing here in AWS, we are sharing with our customers and we are sharing with our partners. And the renewable energy work, how we are doing the renewable energy optimizations, how we are measuring our goals through the renewable energy. Those work has been shared with one of our customers in India, and they have a big footprint on renewable energy, and they are using AWS based technology to measure and track and optimize their renewable energy.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty cool to be able to kind of not just also offer assistance to others that are involved in this effort as well here. I think it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, definitely. So, today's Silicon Innovation Day. Obviously, a lot of the energy efficiencies that we are doing at Amazon AWS is related to the chips that we produce and just building more energy efficient chips. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I just want to highlight, I'm sure you both know much better than me about the silicon. So so moving on to that, the silicon, when we talk about Graviton3 or Inferentia, they are definitely the silicons which are consuming less energy. Graviton3 itself is, reduce your energy consumption by 60%, and that converts to our carbon reduction goals also. So that's why, when we will talk about how customers can take advantage, so we always say that, switch to the Graviton-based instances and reduce your, carbon footprint and emissions.
Yeah, and one of the other things that, is also involved a lot in silicon is the usage of water as well. And I think we all know that water is a very precious resource, especially, Martin and I are usually in California, so we're very, we have a lot of insight into that.
Drought is real,
with drought and stuff like that. So water is particularly important in the data center as well. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about what efforts are we doing to make sure that, we are not overutilizing this precious resource.
Yeah, good question, Art, and thanks for the background. So apart from data center construction, apart from renewable energy, and apart from having the silicon, which are consuming less energy, so we have the water efficiency also in play here, and we are making sure wherever we operate, we consume the lower amount of potable water as we can. And there is in most of our data centers we have an evaporative cooling technology, and that technology is really based on the real-time sensors to observe the outside weather. So and by observing the outside weather temperature, it reduced the water usage to cool down our data centers.
Wow.
And with that technology in Ireland, 95% of the year time we are using no water to cool down our data centers. So we are just using the outside cool air to ingest and to cool down the data centers.
This is a huge thing, right?
Yeah, that's
this
the efficiency in the water. So in the water space we are getting, and there are multiple examples here. So one of the example is that in Northern Virginia, where we are trying to where we are working with the local communities to use the non-potable water or the reclaimed water, and AWS is the first data center provider to be approved to use those reclaimed water in Northern Virginia. And that's how we are kind of lowering our dependency on the potable water, which is required for the communities, right?
Yeah.
Super important, yeah.
Yeah, and I think for those who are watching us, we're referring to Northern Virginia here, and also our Ireland data center. Just so folks understand, those are some of the largest,
two of our
larger data centers, right, Martin? So it's kind of you have to. We're not just starting with some small locations that we have. We're starting to try to create this impact on a much larger scale with two of the larger data centers that we have, one in Europe and the other here in the United States.
Oh yeah, I mean there are many examples of how we are trying to improve the water efficiency, and one of the things which comes to my mind right now is the kind of having an on-site modular water treatment plants. So we have those on-site water treatment plants to make to reuse the water for to improve our cycle for cooling cycles. So we are using the same water again and again to cool down the data center through the treatment plants, and we kind of lower our dependency on the outside water.
So I think that even goes back to I don't feel like this word can be overused at this point, but it goes back to efficiency. We talk about efficiency in the chips, and we're talking about that taking that same level of efficiency into the data center itself, into just utilizing the information that we have to be more efficient, whether it's what you mentioned about the cooling in our building in Ireland, but the usage of the potable water as well is super important.
Yeah. So just switch gears a little bit. How can customers take advantage of AWS's sustainability efforts?
Yeah, so that's good segue to our talk. So the first and foremost things we propose is the migrations. So when customers migrate to AWS, they can reduce their carbon emissions by 80%, and that reduction can go up to 96% once we are powered with 100% renewable energy by 2025.
Yeah.
And a lot of our viewers might know that on Monday this week we launched our 2021 sustainability report, and we are at the 85% level. So we are very much on a track to reach our 100% level by 2025.
Yeah. And that also speaks to some level of transparency for everybody as well, right? We're issuing a report, being pretty open and honest about where we are in terms of our effort and how we're tracking toward that as well.
Yeah, I mean, there have been multiple 451 reports also across our different geography, which talks about how migrating your on-premises workload to AWS can reduce your energy consumption by 3.6 times in US compared to the median enterprises in US. And it also reduces, and if it is in APAC or Europe region, we improve that energy efficiency by 5 times. And 2/3 of that efficiency is directly coming from a higher resource utilization in our data centers because of the economy of the scale we have here.
Right. Part of it is just by not having equipment sitting idle in your. When equipment is not being used in a data center, still needs to be cooled. It still is using energy in order to be efficient. So moving that to the cloud, where the utilization is kind of more closer to 24/7 can improve the efficiency of that piece of equipment as well, and that helps. That's how some of this reduction happens.
Exactly. So that's how customers can take advantage to your original question. And of course, once customers are on AWS, they can further optimize their workload to lower the carbon footprint. We have frameworks, we have tools to showcase to our customers, which gives them the best practices and guidance and the design. It has the design principles for customers to reduce their carbon emissions while on AWS. So some of the examples are, for example, using AWS Instance Scheduler to shut down your instances when it is not in use, right?
Yeah.
Or you switch to the Graviton-based instances, and reduce your energy consumption. Or use the purpose-built storage for the different use cases, right? And whether it is the magnetic drives you want to use or whether it is the solid-state drives you want to use, validate the use case and use the storage according to your use case and keep the energy efficiency at a higher level.
And the great part about that is that you're not only making, you're only being more efficient, you're also oftentimes saving cost and getting better performance at the same time. So it's a win-win and a win.
Yeah, that's why we call it eco-efficiency, where financial models meet with your carbon reduction model, and both goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So one of the things, maybe you could give us some examples of some tools that we're giving to customers to empower them to understand what their carbon footprint is in the cloud as well, right? Because I believe we're trying to give insight to customers so that when they transition to the cloud, and it also helps them with efficiency. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, first thing is we have a sustainability pillar under the well-architected framework, which was launched last year at re:Invent. Dr. Werner Vogel launched it in his talk, and with that sustainability pillar, we have the design principles and we have the best practices to improve for customers to improve their architecture, to improve their digital products on the top of AWS and reduce their carbon emissions. And once the customers tend to go those optimization path, we have the tools available for our customers to measure and to track those optimizations. So one of the tool was also launched, which is AWS Customer Carbon Footprint tool. And that tool was launched in 2021 re:Invent and was GA this year in March. And this tool really helps customers to understand their emissions. And you can select a period cycle that this is the time period I want to check my emissions for my workload in AWS, and it will directly give you the emissions numbers, and it will also tell you how much emissions you are saving if you would have been running this workload on-premises. So, and then also it gives you the separation of your workload by different geographies, and a separation of your workload by the service to service, like EC2 or S3, and then also it gives you the trend analysis and the forecasting model for your carbon emissions. Like as it forecasts your carbon emissions based on your AWS usage. As the usage goes up for the customers, and as AWS is procuring or Amazon is procuring more and more renewable energy to our data centers, so it gives that trend analysis, and it gives that forecast model that how your carbon emissions going to look like, maybe 1 year down the line or 2 years down the line.
Yeah, so I think the really cool thing about this tool is that not only does it give customers information in my head about their carbon footprint, it helps enable people to further track their own carbon footprint as well, right? I mean, we talk a lot about moving to the cloud and being able to save efficiently, but other companies, in addition to Amazon, have taken, whether it's a climate pledge or other action, they want to be able to calculate that, and this is a vehicle for them to be able to do that and be able to come up with accurate representation of their carbon footprint.
Totally agree with you.
It's a great way to keep people accountable and just keep yourself accountable too.
Right, and just to impress upon it's available today. So it's not a tool that we're talking about that's coming out. I mean, it's something that's available that we launched. Did you say last year?
In March this year.
Yeah, in March this year. So pretty new that it's out there, and I think I would encourage people to take a look and try it out to see what their the efficiency of their footprint is as well, and how they can even make it even more efficient. And I think later in the day we'll talk about how to migrate and the ease of doing that will give customers those tools as well. So as this tool tells you, what it would be like if you're using Graviton or something else, we'll also talk to some of our other experts about how easy it is to just simply migrate over to some of those instances as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is. We're gonna have a talk about it, right?
Yeah.
How easy it's gonna be.
Yeah.
And I work very closely with the team who has been developing this tool, and there are really cool and good features coming out of this tool. And in the roadmap we are planning to go more granular on this tool, and we are planning to add more functionalities for our customers, so that so that customers can understand their workload. Not just at a high level, but also at some granularity level.
Yeah, I think that's great. And
Yeah.
it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think one of the things we'll see this afternoon in some of the deep dive talks is just more on how our different processors and chips provide that sustainability. So more to come on sustainability for sure. But yeah, definitely excited to have this as one of our big value propositions in terms of, why do we do silicon innovation?
Yeah, and I think that transitioning to the next thing we had here about sustainability is also kind of directionally what other initiatives that we're a part of, and how we're kind of one of the things we're doing is taking advantage of our own data center to be able to compile information in a more consumable fashion for people. Maybe you can talk to that. That's part of this the sustainability data initiative, but maybe you can talk more to that.
Yeah. I mean. Definitely, I want to touch upon this topic because this has been close to my heart. And, Amazon Sustainability Data Initiative is really an initiative which provides the many different data sets to our customers, which can be consumed in their applications. So, think of use cases where customers want to innovate and research on a different use cases, whether it is about the weather forecasting, to take action based on weather forecasting, or whether it is based on the air quality data, or the ocean floor temperature data. So these are the data sets which comes in a petabyte in scale, right? And for customers, it is really a heavy lifting to kind of download it, sanitize it, filter it, and consume it in the applications. So Amazon has worked with many different data set providers such as NASA, NOAA, and UK Met Office, and they have hosted their data sets in an open source fashion on the top of AWS. So any customers can go to their console and start consuming this data.
That's great. It's really like we're democratizing these data sets for everyone to use, and just, we don't have to start from scratch collecting data. Everyone can just start with these data sets and just get started faster.
Yeah, Martin. I mean, that's absolutely right. I mean, we have taken that heavy lifting on behalf of our customers, and providing that data, in a much easy to consumable manner. And it's really one of those things where I want to recite our leadership principles, which is success and scale bring the broad responsibility. So we want to contribute towards the society, and we want to create more than we consume.
Right, and I think that that goes into the entirety of the initiative that's even highlighted on the slide, right? By providing this helps customers potentially reduce the cost of doing this themselves by taking this on ourselves. It helps them reduce the time it takes to react to it, because it's not just the data, it's the data set that's really large. It's the length of time it takes to do something with it. And by this sustainability data initiative helps improve that reaction time and removes barriers, if you will, right?
Exactly.
To that. Excuse me.
Yeah, so just in summary, do you want to just let customers know how they use AWS to meet their sustainability goals?
Yeah, so I would kind of summarize our talk into three broad categories. First is migrate your workload to AWS to reduce your carbon emissions by 80%, and you can go even up to 96%. And then once you are on AWS, optimize your workloads using the well-architected framework and sustainability pillar under that framework. And then measure your optimizations using customer carbon footprint tool. And then the third category is really the transform. Once customers have many different use cases. Maybe their hotspots is not in IT. Their hotspots are in their value chain, or in their supply chain, or in their transport or delivery models, right? So use the AWS services such as IoT or machine learning services or the AWS Data Lake services to optimize your value chain and to bring the more transparency. And then once you understand how your processes are, you can take actions to make them efficient and reduce your carbon footprint across your business. So that's what I would really like to. And then I want to shout out for AWS Professional Services, who have been working with our customers to reduce their carbon footprint through many different projects, whether it is about the use case of building management, or whether it is the energy optimizations, or whether it is just creating a customer's carbon footprint framework.
Yeah, this is all really exciting. I think we start and end almost in the same point. We talk a little bit about efficiency and optimizing your platform for efficiency. And I think Martin even said it before, is that there's opportunity to save to save dollars here as well and become more efficient by going into cloud and
better performance.
And achieving better performance.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of related to our overall mission here, of creating some of that purpose-built silicon as well. So I just want to thank you for coming out here today. I think it's a really exciting topic, and I think it's great to be able to explain to everyone, what we're doing in our part at AWS to try to drive this forward.
Yeah, I would say thank you to both of you. Thanks for having me, and it was a great talk, and wish you good luck with the next upcoming sessions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so I believe we are scheduled to take a broadcasting break.
Yeah, we'll take a little break until 12:30 Pacific time or 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then we'll pick up this afternoon, and we're going to talk a little bit about security to start, and then we'll get into those 5 processors that we had talked about earlier in the day: Inferentia, Trainium, Graviton, and we'll walk through all of that this afternoon, our Nitro SSDs.
I can't wait.
Yeah, exactly.
Exciting.
It'll be great. So thank you.
So we'll see you again shortly.